Hello, everybody. Welcome to the La Maison de Rouge weekly live broadcast. My name is Dia Dynasty. I am one half of La Maison de Rouge. My other half, Lucy Sweetkill, is taking the night off. And I just wanted to say how much we appreciate all of you guys being here and your presence and your continued support. Tonight, we have a very wonderful and amazing guest. Her name is Mistress Kiko. She is a Japanese dominatrix based in Los Angeles and also a rope bondage specialist. So let's welcome Mistress Kiko. Hi, Mistress Kiko.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. We are really excited to, talk and share and have you here and add you to our, community of wonderful doms who we've gotten to know a little better and peel back the layers of your life.
I'm excited too.
Yay! How are you today?
Good. Yeah, it's really nice in New York.
Yes, today is actually quite beautiful. It has been really hot, and we get through the heat together.
Yes.
So what brings you to New York?
I love it here. It's just inspiring coming here, and there's a lot of beautiful places to see and galleries to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really enjoy the city.
It is a very beautiful city and full of culture for sure.
Yes.
And I'm sure New York loves having you.
Thank you.
So let's start at the beginning of your story. And can you tell us one of your very first kinky experiences, maybe before you knew what kink was?
I used to love picking on guys when I was when I was a little kid. Like I would throw balls at them, tie them up, you know. Yeah,
a true dominatrix.
Yeah, in third grade,
Mm-hmm.
and my classmate, who's a guy, would come up to me and say, "Can you stop picking on us?" So, but I didn't mean any harm.
Right, you're just having fun, right?
Yeah, that's my earliest, I think.
Yeah. So when he asked you, "Can you stop picking on us?" What did you say?
I didn't really say anything. I just kind of stopped and then did it again. But it's not like I was trying to hurt anyone. So
yeah,
no, I thought it was just fun.
Yeah, I mean, it is fun, I definitely remember doing similar things or just, kind of, I remember biting boys.
Oh, you did when you were a kid?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not very healthy, but what do you sometimes
Where did you bite?
It was this kid that I played with, and I got frustrated with him because, he was like slow and couldn't like do the things that I could do. And so I took his arm and I bit him on the arm, like right. Yeah. So I learned from a young age that, that's not what you do. And that it's better to use your words.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so I guess that was like, you said that was grade school, and then anything further on into your like teenage years, and did that evolve?
Yeah, when I was a kid, my my father took me to his friend's house, and he wanted to talk with his friends, so he put me in another room, his friend's son's room, when I was in fourth grade. And that was pretty shocking to me because I walked in and I sat there for a long time, and I started snooping through the room, and all these videos and books came out.
Oh.
And I saw all these magazines with girls being tied up.
Oh.
So that was like the beginning when I saw something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like really excited. I don't know why, when I was in 4th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
I snooped through the closet and I saw all these. I think he was really into it. I saw all these like cuffs, handcuffs, and
Wow.
yeah, like leather cuffs and
Oh, so that
whips.
was wow. Wow. So that was your first exposure to like kinky equipment
Yes,
and
yes.
like the, you know, the media of kink.
Yeah, I didn't tell my father, but it was like I went through the whole book and it
Whoa.
totally, like, yeah, it was really shocking to me.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's like my first experience. Yeah.
Wow. So, okay. So your first experience or your first exposure
Hmm.
to, you know, like bondage and all these things, and you didn't know about it before. So
No.
how did that, like, what kind of, how did that inspire you, you know?
Yeah, I didn't really think about it. And then in high school, um, I was obsessed with like SMs. Back then in Japan, they had these magazines called SM Sniper that
Hmm.
was out, and it was a BDSM magazine. And I loved corsets, so I started because I had this goth era. I was
Mm.
a little goth,
Yeah.
and so I was looking through all these places where I could wear them. So yeah, I started buying SM Sniper at a bookstore underage, and then when I turned 18, I started obsessing over it. And
Mhm.
then, yeah. And then I found this coffee shop, or I don't know, like a fetish bar or a
Mhm.
coffee shop. So once I got into college, I was like, I'm at the right age to work.
Oh.
So, so I went through the books and um, back then I lived in Osaka,
Mhm.
and um, I found this fetish coffee shop in Kyoto, and it looked really freaky. When I go to Kyoto, I would see these mannequins hanging from the window in front of, yeah, it was like a really freaky coffee shop.
Wow.
Yeah, and
I
I walked
mean,
in and I was like, I want to work there.
mhm.
And the guy, he was apparently called Doggy or something. I guess he was the masochist of the house or whatever, but I didn't know. He was the only one there.
Mhm.
And when I first started, he was like, "Do you want to just join this performance?" And suddenly he said, "Go to this performance, and one of the mistress is going to lead you or whatever." And I didn't know what was going on, and I said, "Okay, what is this about?" And that was the real beginning. And I was put on the stage, and this mistress came and whipped me with roses, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. It just ended in 30 minutes.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then after that, the owner came and was like, I need to talk to you. He called me and was like, I'd like to meet you. Doggy or puppy didn't tell us about the details. And I said I was very interested in working here because I wanted to wear my outfit, or and suddenly like they were you need to experience BDSM if you want to work here, because that's where it's connected to
Mhm.
commercial, that not commercial dungeon, but it's where all the girls are and they go do BDSM. So I was like, okay, I don't know what it's about, but I'll try it out.
Mhm.
So then suddenly like they locked me up in the room and they suspended me up in the air,
Whoa.
and they put enema up my butt and they whipped me for like 8 hours straight, and I was like crying and crying and crying. That's what I remember.
That is that is so, I mean, it's very cinematic, but it's
Yeah.
also really insane to consider that being like what people call BDSM nowadays, because it's
Uh-huh.
like non-consensual.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's like, if I think about it, they could have gotten arrested for what they did.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
non-consensual completely. Like back in the days, it was not consensual at all in
def
Japan.
whoa. So how did that affect you at that time?
I was like, I'm not going to work here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I gave away my driver's license info and my all my information. So they kept coming to my apartment in Osaka
Oh
and
my
kept
goodness.
knocking on my door, calling me like for days and days and days. And then they would bring me back. I kind of gave up after a few days, and I was like, and people working there would bring me back, and then they'll lock me up again, and they kept doing the same thing.
Oh my goodness.
And then other mistresses were trying to encourage me, like, you need to really understand it, it's not like what you think. I don't know, it was just like crazy.
That sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah, so did you feel like powerless?
Yeah,
And
I did, and I was like alone, and I
uh-huh.
was, because I was a student and I'm like far away from my family,
Mm-hmm.
living alone in Osaka. So I felt kind of powerless, and I didn't know what to do. There's no law back then in Japan,
Right.
with stalkers or anything back then. There was no law for that. You could go to the police if they say, if I tell them I know them, they won't do anything about it.
Right.
So they kept knocking on my door, and I don't know, it just suddenly switched, and I was like, you know what? I want to know everything about it. So because I started feeling like this is so deep. BDSM is so deep, and I'm so young that I don't understand what it's about,
Mm-hmm.
the psychological aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I also saw, like, at the bar they did performances, and I saw girls hanging, suspended, and I was like, I got really excited. I was like, this is what I really want to do.
Yeah.
So they said in order for me to be able to do that, I would have to really explore everything and understand the other side. So that's what I did. I just, like, I don't know, suddenly something switched, and I was like, I want to know everything about it.
I
Yeah.
see. So you basically sounds like you surrendered to the experience.
Yeah, I kind of did. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Um, did you have any submissive tendencies at that time?
Not really.
Mm-hmm.
Not really.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all, actually.
Right. So it was
So
a
it was
form.
like, so I did, like, experience it, and I was like, if somebody wanted to do something to me, I was like, go ahead. Like, I didn't really feel that pain or anything, and it wasn't really doing anything to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it didn't
Wow.
really do anything to me, but eventually, like, when I was doing sessions, like, no one came to dominate me. I was offering both, but no
Oh.
one really came to dominate me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
As I got older. Yeah. Some of them came and said, you're not submissive,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
can you just teach me? And I was like, okay, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Teach other people how to dominate or to submit.
to like tie, or they'll come and they're like, and I'll be like, no, you're not supposed to do this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when they come as a dom and they were
Mm-hmm.
trying to do something to me, I was like, no, you're not supposed to do that.
Right.
Do this to me. And I was like, and they're like, you're not submissive, like, you're like telling me what to do.
Right.
So, yeah. So eventually, like, I only had submissive people come see me.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I mean, it sounds like the forced submission that you had to go through was somehow like you were able to transform it into like a willing, surrender. And once you did that, it's like you take your power back. You're like, saying yes to things that maybe before didn't feel like something that you would have wanted for yourself. And that's, to me, that's a reclaiming of your power, you know. It's just like saying, yeah, I want to learn everything, you know, put me through it, do the worst, do your worst.
Yeah, I was really young and curious, and yeah, like I just got really into it.
Yeah, wow. So this is such a fascinating story, and I have so many questions, and I don't want to get stuck, you know, in this story, because I want to, of course, like, have you share the trajectory of your whole career. But I'm still very curious, you know, psychologically speaking, did you feel like perhaps the trauma of like having this thing done to you made you not want to give up control ever? Or
No, it actually didn't really affect me that much
Mhm.
at all. It was like an experience for me to understand the other side.
Right, right.
So it didn't really, I mean, it did traumatize me for a little bit, but then yeah, it was it was more like education for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and then after that well, I worked at a bar in Kyoto,
Mhm.
like a fetish bar in Kyoto with a mistress. The mistress opened a fetish bar, and she's an amazing person. And I worked there for a while.
Mhm.
So,
What is a fetish bar?
fetish bars where you dress up in like mistress outfit
Mhm.
and you just talk to people who's into BDSM.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then we had shows,
Mhm.
performances, like maybe 30-minute shows
Mhm.
in Japan. So
Mhm.
it's all the kinksters come and talk about things like kinky
Okay.
stuff and
Mm.
enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah. A place to gather and share
Yeah.
kinky things. Is it a place to also play?
Yeah. Back then there was a private, you were able to privately play
Mhm.
with the girls. I think the customer has to pay a fee to the mistress,
Mhm.
like a deposit, and depending on that deposit, the customer was able to see the girls once a month or twice a month,
Oh,
or yeah. And
okay.
then so I went to some of the sessions, and um, they would say, "How much do you want?" So we just gave them whatever price we wanted.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's nice.
Yeah, but it's changed a lot in Japan. Yeah, the
Okay.
market is very, very oversaturated now. So
Right. Yeah. I'm sure with the popularity of shibari in Kimbaku, it's become like an explosion of all different kinds of practitioners and you know, pro doms and things like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, it's a big problem in Japan because the BDSM scene in Japan, when you go, it's all about customer service, and it's
Mm.
not about doing what you want to do to a
Mhm.
client or
Mhm.
a slave, or like it's not really domination. It's more
Mhm.
like customer service. They'll give you a list of what they want, and you
Right.
do exactly what they ask for.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's like how it should be.
Well, I don't think so either, but I think that that's, you know, there's a term, service topping,
Yeah,
and the customer, you know, a lot of times prefers that because it's catering to their, you know, their desires and their
yeah,
fetishes. And a lot of times, you know, it's easier to it's more centered on their own sexuality than the dominant woman who, you know,
yeah.
is, yeah.
So it tends to be that way. I think it's good for fetishists because that's what they want. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
but it's like yeah, yeah, it's been like customer service heavy in
Yeah.
Japan. Whereas here in the United States, I think it's a little more different.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I think it's more about domination than what it is in Japan, I think.
Yeah, I'm curious, and I kind of have this idea that maybe it's cultural as to like kind of the customer demand versus the providers like preferences.
Yeah.
And I think that there's culturally this difference between like a lot of Eastern cultures being more like the gender dynamics are more set in place, like men have more power than women, and women are expected to be like servants or second class citizens in a way. Whereas in the West, I think there is a little more autonomy when it comes to women and what we would like to do.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. Like when I first started, it wasn't like that. It was it was a very underground market, and you were able to do whatever you want. So it's completely changed in Japan.
Yeah. So it's become more like commercialized?
Yeah, very much commercialized. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you'll see there's hundreds and thousands of girls.
Oh yeah.
That are skilled and beautiful. And yeah.
Do you prefer the Western market?
Yeah, I do. I do prefer the Western market. Although there's some good submissives in Japan too. Yeah. So.
Do you still see those submissives?
Yeah, I do. Because I started long time ago. Each of my clients are like it's really hard for me, but I see them passing away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's very heartbreaking for me.
Yeah.
To see them pass away, and they've been loyal to me, and we have a very good connection and relationship because we know each other for like more than 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a long time.
It is a long time. Yeah.
So what do you consider a good submissive?
I think it's good submissive is someone who wants to please me, right? Yeah. And it's all about pleasing me, and it's not about themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't you think? Yeah.
Yeah. and that's something that we come upon in the West as well, as people, especially like there's a lot of talk about kind of this patriarchy and how it is a mindset that has allowed most men, most like cisgendered heterosexual men, to kind of like be self-centered, because the whole patriarchal system is centered on these men, and like how, and kind of glorifies every little thing they do and gives them a lot of privilege, and everybody else is just kind of like not as great as the white man, and I think that's definitely a that those tables need to be turned. Yeah. So a good submissive does not center themselves and aims to please the dominant.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with that. I also think a good submissive is somebody who can manage their own emotions and not use their dominant or their partner as like a place to dump all that stuff or blame somebody else for them.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yes.
Yeah. So, so what, just kind of going back to your beginnings as a dominant, or as a dominatrix, what did you learn about yourself from that experience moving, into professional domination?
And like as I age?
From more from the beginning of like the curiosity place, you know, like
Uh,
when you experienced the thing and then you were like, I want to learn everything, you know. Um,
yeah,
what did you learn about yourself?
I felt like when I was young and I didn't really know what I really wanted
Hmm.
to, like what I want, like what I enjoy doing. I mean,
Hmm.
I did have an idea, but um, the more I start experiencing it, the more I realize what I'm really into,
Hmm.
and I want to expand more of it. You know,
Hmm.
so um, yeah, I learned. Yeah, I think I just enjoying myself through the process and trying to you know, you start learning that, you know, you realize you like certain things like stronger, and you before you don't really know. I didn't really know what I really liked.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
except I always knew I liked force spy.
Ah, okay.
So yeah, that
Okay.
was my kink when I was a kid, so I've always been into that. But
When you
besides,
were a kid?
well, since I was like 18, I already knew that I was really like I was obsessed with that too.
Okay. So you wanted to force boys to be together.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
always into that. I don't, for some reason. So
That's
it's
so great.
so besides bondage, it's been my one of my kink too.
How did you discover that?
Um, yeah. So when I was working professionally, I didn't connect the two as
Mm.
BDSM. So I never thought force spy was part of BDSM.
Uh-huh.
So I because I was trained in Kyoto to learn more of a more to be an authoritarian, like
Oh.
like corporal punishment
Mhm.
and something more heavy, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I thought that was BDSM,
Mhm.
but I didn't know that I can have slaves and slaves do things to each other. Like we never had that. I never had that. So I would randomly meet someone outside and be like, "Let's meet at a love hotel," and and I would pay for everything, and I would hire a tea girl or a man to come in and do things to them.
How did that go down? Like, you know, was this wasn't necessarily something that you had discussed with them, or was it something that they wanted and asked you for, or
No, I never discussed with them. I was very crazy when I was young. So, you know, when you're young and crazy, and then like I had something really against married men who asks a single girl out.
oh,
And
yeah.
so these married men, when I was like 18, 19, would come up and say, "Can you date me? Can you be my girlfriend?"
Mhm.
And I'll be like, "No, I'm not interested." And then they'll be like, "Please, can you date me?" And I'll be like, "Then let's meet at the Love Hotel."
Ha ha
And
ha.
yeah,
Oh, that is so devious. I love it.
yeah. So I used to like hire a tea girl,
Mhm.
pay her for her time, and have them do things to them as like
And
a punishment.
yeah, of course, because men need to be punished more often. So how you know how did they react? Like, were they like, oh, I deserve this punishment, or
No, they were screaming. They were screaming.
and did you get joy from their screams?
Yes, I did.
I love it. And
Sorry, I'm saying crazy stuff, but yes.
no, this is a part of your story. You know, no reason to be sorry at all. I just want to take a pause real quick and just let our audience know that we will be answering questions that you have for Mistress Kiko at the end of the interview segment. So I'm seeing questions and would love to answer them when we are finished with the interview section. And if you want to put them in the chat box, that's great. Or you can just hold on to them until we're finished with the interview. So yeah, so I just love this. Have you had any negative experiences in those ways when you were, I guess, when you were a little more crazy?
No, not really. Not really. Not really. No, I don't think so.
That's
Yeah,
great.
the most negative was the experience in the first dungeon where they locked me up and did stuff to me. But
Yeah,
besides that, no, I don't
that's
think
great.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Um,
Well, when I was not. uh, so when I was like not really still learning,
mhm,
there was times when, I didn't. When I first started, it wasn't about the safety of
mhm,
bondage.
mhm.
So I wasn't trained to, care about the other person's safety or injuries. When I first started, it was like
Yeah.
I was not told about that. And like it was like, yeah, if you were submissive, if you get injured, it's
Your
that's
problem.
your problem. So that has evolved and changed a lot in the bondage world. You
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
People care more about the safety and aftercare and stuff. But I wasn't trained that way. So there were times when I first started where, my sub would get hurt
Mhm.
and, stuff like that. So, yeah,
So that it was
now
just
I'm very careful.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Uh,
But before, yeah.
yeah. So where did you learn rope? Like, were you seeking mentors or who?
Yeah. When I first started at the dungeon, it was a very hardcore dungeon. They were
Mm,
very serious. So they used to time me for a gote, like a tie harnessed gote.
mhm.
So that it was like 20 seconds. I have to finish a gote in 20 seconds. And they would time me.
Wow.
They're like, you're not ready yet. And they kept timing me. But now it's, I learned from a lot of people.
Mhm,
And yeah, I learned from a lot of people, different people.
mhm.
So sometimes it can be confusing when you learn from so many people because um, even if the main rule is the same, it's better to, focus on one. I think it's better to focus and kind of perfect one style and then
Mhm.
move on to another one. But yeah, I learned a lot from different people. Yeah. And then I
Yeah.
also translated here in the United States at workshops. So I learned there too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do one thing.
Hmm.
Um, and I think a lot of people in the West, they kind of um, they're they think that shibari is like one way. It's like
Yeah.
the purest form of rope bondage, and
Mhm.
it's and there's only one way to do, the TK or the chest harness or
Mhm.
something. And I think that, when you start seeing the way that other people do things in various ways,
Mhm.
it gives you also like a better idea of how you can also do things in your own way too.
Yeah, I agree.
Make it your
Yeah.
own.
Yeah. It's good to make it your own, I think.
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah, that's is there a a kind of rope that you prefer over others?
I use jute.
Mhm.
Cotton is also good for like beginners. If you're doing suspension, it's very comfortable and
Oh yeah.
safe. Yeah.
Mhm.
So um yeah, either jute or cotton for me.
Very
Yeah.
nice. Um, yeah, jute and cotton feel very different on the skin too.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
I have cotton rope and I call it pajama rope because it's
Yeah.
like,
It's comfortable.
yeah, it's very comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's forgiving, so it's good, if you don't want a lot of marks or yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So based on the thing that you said about how BDSM in Japan used to be kind of just like whatever,
Uh-huh.
whatever you wanted to do to somebody else, and then now it's very kind of like service oriented.
Uh-huh.
Um, Do you think that it's going to stay that way?
I think so. I think so. It's very commercialized.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And a lot of people, it's so oversaturated that people who's kind of interested in BDSM, they come, you know, and they
Mm-hmm.
think they'll get a hand job, and you know,
Right.
it's completely service oriented.
Right.
Yes.
But that's not what you're interested in doing in terms of BDSM.
No.
So what are your current interests?
My current interests.
Mhm.
That's a hard question.
Oh,
I mean, I
well,
have a lot of interests,
yeah, I'll name them
but
all.
well, so I love sissy training.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
yeah, I love sissy training. I love bringing in multiple slaves. It's my thing. It's just it really gets me very excited.
Oh,
Um,
like the
yeah,
queen being served by all of her minions.
I like directing and
Mhm.
putting together something really, like a role play scenario. It's very exciting for me.
Yes, and you can force all the sissies to be bi.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really into it. So,
That's awesome.
how about
What
you?
what are my current interests? Actually, I'm looking for. I really enjoy, um, and I'm also looking to get better at my rope bondage skills.
Mm,
And I enjoy the kind of like meditative way of tying, but I
mm,
also enjoy all the different ways that you can tie somebody, like just on the floor, like not
yeah.
not even with suspension yet. And so I recently played with somebody who was very flexible, and that was a lot of fun because
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
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 So started with a hog tie and then moved into like a stretched out tie,
Mm,
and then moved into the ebby tie,
uh-huh.
and having that control with just one rope where you just, pull somebody and their head goes down,
Yeah.
and just, that to me is just like, um a form of power and control that's like more playful, and
Mm,
it doesn't feel like, um it doesn't feel like mean.
yeah. Yeah. It like rope bondage. I feel like I'm always constantly learning. You
Hmm.
know, it's like I feel like it's endless,
Hmm.
right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah. There's more to learn.
always.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so versatile and malleable that there's an infinite ways you can do with it.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, so is there any like projects or current, promotional things or anything um that you would like to promote on here?
No, I don't have any important promotion,
Hmm.
but I I would like to um s- I will I would like to explore further collaboration with La Maison de Rouge,
Oh, yes.
if
That,
possible.
yeah, that would be really great. We should definitely talk about that afterward. Yeah.
Yes.
So so just as a kind of like a last question to
Mm-hmm.
round out our interview,
Uh-huh.
do you have any advice for rope beginners?
Oh, for rope beginners?
Hmm.
Um I would think um I think the technically you just have to practice a lot, but
Hmm.
um the more you do it, the more you get better. That's all it is. So,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
absolutely.
just practice. So,
Yeah, and muscle memory.
uh, yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
but yeah, um Yeah, but then you get caught up with too much of the technical part, and then you lose that connection.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
I would enjoy the connection. Try to enjoy the connection too.
Yeah. How do
Yeah.
you balance that?
It's in the beginning, it's kind of hard too because you're trying to get your skills up, and right,
Hmm.
you're like focusing on it, and then you lose that.
Hmm.
You're not really focusing on that person. Like you're tying their, everybody says you're supposed to tie their heart or whatever, but you know,
Mm.
yeah, you get
You're
carried
supposed
away with the technique. There's so
what
much stuff.
what do you mean you're supposed to tie their heart? What does that mean?
Like, yeah, some of the rope artists always tell me like you're supposed to tie their heart while you're tying them. You're like catching their heart.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
And is that done through rope?
Yeah,
Um,
through a rope. Yeah.
just rope, or like rope and verbal skills, or like
Um,
touching, or what do you use to capture someone's heart?
I have no idea. But you kind of breathe in with them, breathe with them, and really focus on how they're feeling
Hmm.
while they're getting tied.
Hmm.
I think it's nice.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Like physically being with them and
Um,
matching your breath to them.
yeah,
I think touch is definitely very important,
yeah,
like laying your hands on somebody to smooth the rope, you know?
uh-huh, yeah,
Um, yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. So sorry, my
So,
English isn't that good, but
no, it's perfect. It's great.
thank you.
No problem at all understanding you. So we have a few questions from our wonderful patient audience. The first one is from Sophia Hernandez. What is the longest and most brutal flogging session you have ever done on a slave?
Longest, I broke a cane. I broke a
Mm.
few canes
Uh-huh. On one
uh,
person?
on one person, but
Wow.
his ass was so hard. So
How does one's
but
ass get so hard?
I don't know. It just broke so easily. I went through all the canes, like 4 canes.
Wow.
It was not a flogging session.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a very specific question. So I
yeah,
think that, canes are definitely qualify as like impact play.
yeah.
Sounds pretty cool.
Flogging session I ever done. It's hard to do longer than like 2 hours, right? Like my arm gets so sore.
Yeah. Yeah. Got to
Yeah,
take breaks.
yeah. I had times when my arm didn't move for a week.
Oh my
Yeah,
God. That's work,
yeah.
This is work. Let's see. Robert would like to know what is rewarding and allure about rope bondage for you? Um, it's so beautiful. Like any challenges or
Hmm.
any challenges or things. Yeah. What is rewarding and alluring about rope bondage for you?
Um, I don't know if I'm answering the question,
Hmm.
but the fact that you really can't escape, you know,
Hmm.
and they're like trying to get away, but they can't. It's really fun to watch that. They're moving around. Yeah, the control part.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely control.
yeah, yeah. So.
Yeah. Okay, and then we kind of already talked about the beginners.
Mhm.
And then we've got another question from Max Media. What was the most bizarre thing you role played as?
Um,
Assuming that you role play.
yeah, I had this one time I had a client come in Japan, and he wrote this whole crazy script, and he went inside the closet. He would just peep through the closet for like so many hours, and I had to act like I'm having this fight with my boyfriend and like by myself.
Okay.
Yeah, that was weird.
Ye- and that was it. Like that's all
Yeah,
he wanted was to like peep in on you having a fight with your boyfriend?
Yeah, for 3 hours. Like he was in the closet the whole time. And
Okay.
he just stared through, and I just had to act like I'm having a fight with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That must be very challenging to sustain, like
Yeah.
3 hours of making up, a bunch of stuff to get mad at.
Yeah. That was really, I don't understand how someone could get turned on by that.
It sounds regressive, like maybe that was a childhood experience that he wanted to somehow relive.
Yeah, I've met so many really interesting clients in Japan.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I mean, I think culturally the expressions of sexuality are very different between
Mhm.
the East and the West, and specifically Japan.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, it was so weird to me.
So another question here. Would you like to relate any mindful, meditative, or spiritual practices or authors you enjoy?
Spiritual practice. I'm not sure what the question is.
Basically, do you have any spiritual or meditation practices that you can
Um,
share?
I'm not sure. I mean, I love the energy exchange,
Hmm.
you know, and BDSM.
Hmm.
I feel like, is that anything spiritual? I
I
don't
mean, I
know.
think BDSM can absolutely be spiritual,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
think, if you do rope a specific way, it can also be meditative. I don't know
uh-huh.
if you do it that way.
Yeah, it can
Um,
be meditative.
yeah.
Um, yeah, you're exchanging energy, right? So,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. And some people like to say that sex is an acronym for sacred energy exchange.
Hmm.
So maybe
Yeah,
that's, a form of sex for some people.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Let's see. Robert has another question. If you could go back, I'm assuming back in time,
Hmm.
what's one piece of advice you would give your younger Dom self just starting out?
Um, just starting out.
Mhm.
I would just be true to myself,
Mhm.
I would just be true to myself. When I first started, um, and I was just learning. I just couldn't stop laughing. Because when I was doming, I was trained for the slaves to sit down, and they were supposed to. The typical thing was they were supposed to put their head down on the floor once
Yes.
they walk in, and they were supposed to say, please train me today,
Mhm.
and they would kiss your feet. That was like the typical in Japan. It was like everybody had to do it.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that, but I do that. Or I
Yeah.
have my subs do
So,
that.
so they were forced to do that, and it was like typical thing.
Yeah.
But I couldn't stop laughing when I
Mhm.
first started. It was just so funny, and then they would get offended.
Oh.
Yeah. When I
Yeah.
was young, and I would just laugh for 30 minutes every session.
What did you find funny about it?
It was just like, some people would act like a dog, and I just
Mhm.
couldn't take it seriously.
Yeah.
When you first start.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I can relate to that 100%. Even, as a younger person, just talking about like sex in a serious way would make me
Mhm.
laugh, and
Yeah.
I couldn't keep a straight face, and I would say ridiculous things, and ruin the mood.
Yeah, I ruin the mood all the time. But yeah, but I would say just be true to yourself, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Like do, you know, I think I would, right?
Absolutely. And you were saying that sometimes you have to kind of experience things to discover that you like them or you don't like them.
Uh-huh.
And so once you experience something and you say, oh, I don't really like this, be true to yourself. Being true to yourself means that, like, maybe not doing it all the time, or not
Uh-huh.
offering. So,
Yeah.
offering it as an option.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
and then when you find that you do like something, like you, when you first were exposed to those that boys magazines and his, like, his toys and things like that, like you were being true to yourself later on when you were like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
but it was more like when I was young, I'm like, I'm gonna try this one. I'm gonna try
Hmm.
that one. I'm gonna try that. Like everything was just curiosity.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
but,
And how are you going to know what is true for you until you try it? Right.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. So yeah, do you have any regrets in your journey?
Um, no, not really. Well, I have a lot of regrets in my personal life, but
Who
but,
doesn't?
but not in my journey, I
Okay.
think.
That's great.
Yes. Um, yeah, I mean there could be things that I could have fixed or yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things, but I think I just, it's more about the future, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
learning from
And
your
learn.
experience. Yeah.
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 Absolutely. Like, what can you do better
Uh-huh.
because whoops, you messed up this time.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I don't really yeah, that's true. I don't really think about it that much. Like, yeah, I mess because I've made a lot of mistakes
Hmm.
in the past, but
That's
there's
how we that's how
yeah,
we learn.
yeah, that's how we learn.
Okay, so we're gonna do 1, 2, 3 more questions.
Uh-huh.
So let's see. David has a question. Um, USA as similar or different from BDSM scene in Japan
Um
regarding the commercial dungeons.
it's I think it's different.
Mhm.
I don't know how the commercial dungeons are here in the United States. I'm not sure. What's the
Right.
difference?
It's hard to say because you don't know what the commercial dungeons in the US are, but uh, you had mentioned earlier that in Japan it feels more like people are service oriented, like they're,
Uh-huh. Yes.
they're service tops.
Yeah.
It's like dominatrix is just a role and not actually like an actual dominant woman or dominant person enacting their will onto the other person.
Yeah. Yes.
And it seems like you had said maybe in the West or in the US, it's more like an actual power play.
Yes. I think that's a big difference, I think.
Yeah. Are there any other minor differences that you care to?
Um no, not really. I think yeah, I do think people here are more skilled
Mhm.
in terms of variety, like the best. Oh, I don't know. It's hard to say. But yeah, I think that's the difference mainly because it's so commercial over there. It's more about customer service.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that kind of the culture reflected in.
Yeah, like a lot of people, the commercial dungeons in Japan, they hold hands. The mistress hold hands with their customer.
Mm,
When they go to do sessions,
mm.
it's like it's a little different. It's like
Yeah.
customer service making them feel good.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah,
With a side of kink.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So a lot of the mistresses show more affection. I
Mhm.
guess
Mhm.
um, in the scene, I think in Japan, it's culturally kind of you know, yeah,
More accommodating.
accommodating. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Next question. This is the next to last question. Did you ever visit Canada, and are you planning for the time to come?
I would love to go to Canada. Yeah, I would love to. Right now, I can't. Right during COVID.
I don't.
Harder
Yeah.
to go. Oh, they're reopening soon?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
heard that they closed their borders for a very long time to Americans, and they haven't fully reopened to Americans.
Yeah. Yeah. But I would love to go. Yeah.
Okay. Anywhere specific in Canada, Mr. Med? Yes, it's still closed. Robert confirmed. Okay. And then last question.
Uh-huh.
Robert would like to know, do you have any rituals you like to do before a session to get ready and that you do for your own aftercare?
Before sessions to get ready. Like my own rituals?
Yeah.
Not really.
Mhm.
Do you have rituals?
I have really simple rituals
Uh-huh.
where it's like the ritual of dressing, selecting what I'm going to wear
Oh yeah.
and putting on the outfit almost as a costume, or a skin
Mm-hmm.
of like, you know uh that's keeping my like most powerful self
Mm-hmm.
in form.
Uh-huh.
And then the last finishing touch is my red lipstick, which I always
Uh-huh.
put on last.
Oh yeah. I
So
I try to do that too. I
okay,
try to
yeah,
do the red lipstick.
yeah,
But
yeah, that
yeah.
it's something simple. Some people, they like to lay out their ropes or their toys and tools,
Mm-hmm.
what they're going to use. And then one of the rituals that I always have my submissives do is to, um, it's the whole like coming into the space, taking off their shoes,
Mm-hmm.
breathing,
Uh-huh.
settling down, slowly undressing, and as each layer comes off, their daily life is left behind,
Yeah.
and then entering through the curtains,
Mm-hmm.
like almost like a cleansing of themselves. And then once they get into the space, they have to put themselves into a child's pose like in yoga,
Uh-huh.
and wait for me.
Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah,
I like it.
I think it helps others get into that
Mm-hmm.
that headspace of, I'm here for this person. i'm
Mm-hmm.
not i'm not here to like impress or to do anything except what they want me to do.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
Yeah, feel free to
Yeah.
use it. I mean, it sounds exactly like the thing that made you laugh for 30 minutes, but
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah, it was just like a typical line that everybody did,
Mhm.
in Japan. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's really interesting that everybody did that. Like that's
Yeah, that was a typical thing. Like sit down and you're going to start your word, before we
it's
start a session.
yeah, it's kind of the beginning of a different
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we have answered all the questions. I'm just gonna real quick let our lovely audience members know that we have a Patreon, which supports our weekly broadcasts. If you subscribe, and your Patreon gets you video chat time with Lucy and myself every month, as well as a monthly task. So there's different tiers, and anything that you ever wanted to know about BDSM, you could ask us. Our Patreon is patreon.com/La Maison de Rouge. And Mistress Kiko, I just want to thank you so much again for being such a lovely presence and sharing your incredible, incredible story with us. It's just like I'm still going to be thinking about it for a long time.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to help me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a pleasure. And if you can stay on after I end the broadcast, maybe we can speak briefly about collaboration.
Oh, okay.
Um, and thank you, wonderful audience, for showing up, for asking such thoughtful questions, for being so polite, and just for, existing. So
Very respectful people.
we will be back, not next Monday, but the Monday after, live with more kinky people to interview. And hopefully you have a safe and kinky week. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
So